is going on, Facebook? We are back. And we have been gone for a little while. And that is all thanks to me because after the Mountain Summit virtual that we had back in April, I had to go under the knife 4 days later to get my shoulder fixed. And I have not been on any Facebook Lives, anything like that since then. And what a great opportunity this is to come back with my man, my brother, the fearless leader. Stories of diversity with Mr. Michael Martin Hummel. Right now, I've got us in the gallery set up because I want you all to see these amazing, beautiful faces right here. Not mine because I'm not that great looking. I want you all to see these two talented, beautiful faces right here. At the bottom, we've got the gorgeous, the talented, the beautiful Lacey Eaton. And at the top, we've got the almost good looking, who rocks the beard, who can do a backflip like nothing else, Mr. Michael Martin Hummel. And we're back, y'all, because we're ready to hit this like it's 1999. And I'm going to hand this over to my brother from another mother, Mr. Michael, as he introduces our first speaker of the afternoon. Michael, my man, the stage is yours.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm still trying to get the first speaker to get in the room, so I'm not sure where she is. Her name is Nurjahan Mitchell. I'm still working on getting her in.
That is okay, Michael. So we're going to pivot, and when she comes in, she can go after our next speaker coming up if you're cool with that, okay?
That's whatever. At, the, at,
Alrighty.
at this point, we can do whatever you need.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So, Lacey, do you feel are you ready to go and open up for us?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Sure.
this is Lacey Eaton, who I have just gotten the privilege to know. I have known her for probably about a year now, and it has been a privilege to communicate through Facebook. What an incredible world we live in, right? Where we can talk to each other from anywhere in the country and in the world. And every time that I've had a dialogue with Lacey, my heart and my cup is overflowed. And over the last 20 to 30 minutes, I've gotten to know her story. And she has one incredible, beautiful heart. And I can't wait for everybody on Zoom world and Facebook world and YouTube world. So wherever you're watching in, please tune in and get ready for your life to be changed. Ladies and gentlemen, Lacey Eaton, the stage is yours.
Oh my gosh, David, that was really nice. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Michael, for having me. I've never done one of these before. So this is my first time, and I'm very happy and excited to be here. And it's funny because when Michael posted about an opportunity to talk about autism, I already was talking myself out of it. And then I said, you know what? No, we're going to do it. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I said, yes, just say yes. So I was like, okay, I'm going to say yes. And I knew better that if I was going to ask Michael, well, is there anything specific that you'd like us to focus on? He's going to give the freedom of the world. And as someone who is autistic and ADHD, that is a little bit of a nightmare. And I mean that in the kindest, sweetest way possible. And I love to be able to have the freedom to talk about whatever I want. But for my brain, sometimes that can be difficult because the opportunities are endless. Which road do I choose? So I am going to do the best that I can here today because there's multiple ways I could go with this. But I think what's really been standing out to me, I think I was going to talk about something else, but there's something that happened this last week. And I feel like it's a door a little bit to my inner world. And I think what I kind of wanted to talk about was kind of the brain of someone who's autistic. And I am just one person with autism. And so I'm speaking to my experience, but I will speak to some of the other experiences I've had. I've had a lot of history of working with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities most of my career. I have had the honor and privilege to sit and provide therapy to a group of people who are frequently denied opportunities of therapy because they are told that they cannot benefit from therapy. And in this honor, I was able to learn so much about the beautiful brains of the people I got to sit with. And what's interesting is, even though my career was long lasting in this field, I didn't know I was autistic, but I always had a massive connection with the people that I worked with. I had a deep understanding of their experience, and really could see where they were coming from. And once I was diagnosed, I finally understood. I finally understood. Everything made sense. And so I did want to come around and say, I love the way my brain works. And it took me 40 plus years to be able to say that. I always knew that I was different. I always had some type of internal struggle with kind of understanding the world around me, understanding people's motivations, understanding hierarchy. I was always labeled as shy, too sensitive, too emotional. And it wasn't until the last few years that I realized I wasn't shy. I was just really, really overwhelmed. And my sensory systems were overwhelmed. I had so much going on that I just did not understand. So these last couple of years, I've been learning that about myself. And I am learning about what it's like, or what it's like to be who I am, because I didn't know who I was because I've been masking my entire life. I've been acting as someone who I wasn't in order to make other people feel comfortable. And it's challenging because then you have this imposter syndrome almost of being yourself, because I haven't been myself my whole life. And I am just now coming out. I'm just now learning about that and how I want to exist in the world. I separated myself from so many people because I couldn't take the noise of everybody's opinions and ideas of what I should be doing, what my life should look like. And I needed to quiet the noise so that I could get in touch with my values and what I believe in and what I know is true. And I know that healing tends to happen in relation, but I also know that a lot of people with autism need that, not isolation, they need solitude in order to rejuvenate that energy, in order to get some silence to recover. And when the reason my diagnosis came up is because I was in burnout, complete burnout mode. And I currently provide therapy for people who are late diagnosed autistic. And I see the pattern. Also, a benefit of having autism, you pick up patterns really, really well and really, really fast in a lot of cases, is that I would say 90% of the people that I am seeing currently, their burnout hit after a significant life event. And that is what happened to me. It was gradually starting, but right when, at the same time, I was going through a divorce and my sister, my only sibling, passed away. And all of a sudden, there was no more capacity left in my body to perform, to mask. The mask fell off without my choice. And it continued and continued. And I know that I struggle with this prolonged and complicated grief. But something else just didn't feel right. And that's where I ended up with the diagnosis. And so there's no more capacity. There's no more capacity. And that's when it starts coming off. But like I said, it took till now for me to say, I love how my brain works. And I don't know if this will resonate with any of you, but for me, it was such a meaningful experience. And I just wanted to tell a little bit about this story, just a part of it. I needed to go for a walk the other day. I needed to connect to nature. I needed to regulate my body. And when you're walking, it does create that bilateral stimulation, and it's very calming for me. I love being in nature. I love observing nature. One of my biggest strengths is appreciation of beauty and excellence. And sometimes when I overuse that strength, it can get in the way because then I end up not doing something else because I'm so busy appreciating. But I went for this walk and I sat in the park and I looked up at the trees and I looked at the sky, and the sky was so vivid blue. The leaves on the trees were so vivid green. They were swaying back and forth. The contrast of it in the sky was just so beautiful to me. And that is how I observe the world. I sat there, I watched a mother play with her 2 children. I watched a man in a wheelchair with his partner sitting outside just to take in some sun. I saw another woman on the bench that looked like she might be struggling with something in her life. I was taking everything in. I was hearing the sounds of the feet on the sand and gravel. I could hear the birds arguing, whatever they might have been doing. That is my sensory experience. It is in high definition all the time. And it's hard. It can be really hard to filter out, especially if you're trying to have a conversation or you're trying to do something and there's all these other things that you can hear. And the thing is when you have a neurotypical brain, it can hear all the same information. It just has a better filter to organize it in your brain, so it filters it out, so it's not as big of a distraction. But when you have that neurodivergent piece, you are taking in like 10 times much more information at high volume because that filter is just not working the same way. So it can be exhausting, it can be tiring. And so I experience the world in high definition, and it can be really challenging, but it can be really beautiful and an amazing experience too. And I sat there realizing that I felt like I struggled with being present. And I realized I'm probably more present than I ever realized because of my ability to recognize the beauty, to recognize the things that most people are just going to walk on by. When I'm standing and staring up at the trees swaying back and forth, because yeah, I do, and someone wants to rush me along, it's frustrating because I feel like I'm not seen or understood, here we go, Michael. And understanding that I need that moment to take in that beautiful moment because that is what regulates me. That's what grounds me before moving me on to something that's probably going to dysregulate me, and maybe not in a bad way, but just give me the moment, And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that experience and how my brain works, and to understand that a lot of people who may not even have the language base that I have to explain that experience, because it took me my whole life, that happened this week, to even be able to understand how I'm experiencing the world. And this is something that I've worked with Michael on, is how can I expect other people to understand me if I don't even understand myself? And that's a big part of what I've been doing is, what is my identity? Who am I? What do I love? What do I enjoy? What energizes me? What drains me? All of those things. And this was like the first time that I really just was so incredibly present. And then I did what my brain does, and it connects it to everything, every single thing. And, I was just sitting there because even though I have the language, the meaning of the moment existed before the words did. And it was just, I was witnessing impermanence. I was witnessing interconnectedness. And at the same time, I was also witnessing like this quiet, soft grief of the impermanence of that experience in that moment, because that moment was never going to happen again. And I didn't want to leave it. And then I go back and I think about all the people that I've worked with that were very high support needs and maybe didn't have the language to communicate. And all the times, and I knew this before, now I just know it on a completely different level, is that when you see people being pulled away from an activity that they're enjoying and there's resistance, it's oftentimes met with, um, like punishment, discipline, or shame. And if we stop for a second and realize, again, this is just my brain, but I guarantee you there's a lot of similarities out there, is they were probably really engaged in what they were doing. What they were doing was bringing them joy. What they were doing was giving them meaning. And you pulled them away from that moment without giving them the opportunity to transition. And I think with all the and I'm a little all over the place, but there is so much. But I think if we spent more time trying to understand people's worlds, there's nothing more that I would love in this world for someone to come into my brain for just a moment, just to experience my world. Because here's the thing, I know it can turn off, but it won't turn off without medication. Because I have ADHD, and many years ago, I started a medication. It was a stimulant, and I think I slept for 3 days. And then by the third day, my brain had completely turned off, and I didn't know that was possible. I was in tears to my mother. I didn't know your brain can turn off. My brain is running 24/7 at the highest gear constantly. Now, I couldn't continue with that because of the side effects were just too strong. But now I'm learning ways to embrace it, learn ways to regulate it. It's not always successful. Sometimes it's straining. But I think the more we can create spaces where people can tell their stories, like this one, creating safe spaces to be heard. I don't think people realize the impact that can have on a person's life. Sitting with someone who's different than you, sitting with someone who might be presenting to the world in a way that you think isn't normal, or the way the world should be working, or the way you should be acting. And instead of approaching those moments with judgment or ridicule, what happens if we just kind of suspend that judgment for just a moment and create a safe space, create an opportunity to be curious, an opportunity to connect? How much difference that would make in the world, how much impact that has on that person's life, and then in turn, the impact it has on someone else's life. And I've seen it. I have seen it over and over again. When you sit down and you take someone seriously and you treat them as a human being, they change for the good. They're being embraced for who they are and not trying to be changed into someone that they're not, especially for someone who's been masking their whole life. We have a lot of people out there who've been masking their whole life. They're late diagnosed, and they had to act a certain way because they weren't accepted for who they are. And I could go into a whole nother spiel about that. Those were the many other lines that I was talking about. We could go in many different ways, but I think it's important to understand that the label that we have, it doesn't define us, and that if we can suspend that judgment of the people around us and get curious and create that space, we might learn something that changes ourselves. So I think that I am probably going to wrap it up there, because there is a million different ways I could go with that. But I think I just wanted to invite you all into my brain a little bit to understand what my experience is like as an autistic, with my brain working the way that it is. So thank you.
Thank you. I very appreciate it. That was actually really enlightening.
No, thank you, Michael.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
The only question I had is, when you have sensory overload, how do you handle that?
So I'm still learning what works in certain situations. but I have built more confidence around knowing what I need to ask for. I think there's a lot of people who question if they should disclose their diagnosis or not, because sometimes it is a safety issue depending on the situation. It can be. For me, I feel privileged to be able to feel confident and safe enough that in certain places that I am able to disclose that. But now I'm getting to a place where I'm disclosing it. I mean, I'm here. I'm in public, and I'm just now starting to disclose that. But I can give myself the opportunity, like, hey, I just need to go take a quick break, or I need to get up and walk around, or I'm just going to step out for a moment and I'll be back. But other times, if it's a situation where I just need to adapt to it, I'm usually doing something with my hands. I tend to wear a lot of rings that I can fidget with. I tend to rock, like, to sway back and forth. Sometimes I do kind of rub my hands on my knees, and it's just kind of a way to self-regulate and self-soothe so that I can remain in that moment.
David, do you have any questions? Or anything you want to say?
Not so much on the question side of things, but it's important for you to get even louder, Lacey,
Mhm.
because um, the world needs to hear more about one, your story, and to bring awareness around autism. Um, it's a topic that a lot of doctors and professions are not aware of. More specifically, when autistic students are being transported to and from schools, you know, TEAs and drivers are not fully trained on how to handle autistic students, and they're learning on by the seat of their pants. And not a lot of TEAs or drivers have the patience to be able to handle students with autism. A lot of them, when I say patience, I mean they do it for half a day and then they go in and say they don't want to ever do it again. There's not enough compassion in the field of transportation. So when I say that you need to get louder, get on more stages, stick with Michael, obviously, because his platform and his movement is powerful and amazing. And, what he has built here is important. But don't stay silent in it. Get even louder and keep pushing and do what you do because that's what it's all about. So thank you for gracing us with your presence and your amazing story.
Thank you so much, David and Michael.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Next up is Nurjahan Mitchell.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time because I'm gonna get emotional. First off, I want to thank Lacey for something that she said about the world being in high def. Um, I'm not autistic, but I have a 16-year-old nephew who is autistic. His name is Caden, and this is my baby. Um, when he was an infant, we noticed that there were certain things that weren't normal. When we would give him a bath, the whole time we're like drying him off, he would scream. At 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism, global communication syndrome. He didn't talk until he was like 6 or 7. And this was after he met a teacher, older lady. I can't remember her name, but he loved this teacher. And she got him saying his ABCs. The first time I heard him say Aunt Mary, it was it was better than Christmas. And he would be so proud when we would ask him to say his ABCs. And Lacey said something else that's really important, and we learned this with him about 8 years old. Instead of us trying to bring him into our world, we had to go into his. Um, we're convinced that he knows Korean because he follows all of that, like the Korean dramas, all of that. And I tell people autism does not mean stupid. What it is, it's a different way of learning. My Caden, he's been Bubby since he's about 4. Um, he told his mother he wanted to be an ethical hacker. He wanted the components to put his own computer system together. And they had to say no because they knew that he could do it. And I get so emotional because it upsets me. Like he taught us things. Like, before him, we would hear kids acting up in the grocery store. And the first thing we would go to is that child is spoiled. Now is when you hear that, is that child having a meltdown? What's going on? It's not necessarily that this is a bad child. This child is overstimulated. Like we learned. So one of the things that would happen is until he really was able to communicate, we knew he was saying certain words because the sounds that he was making were consistent. So we knew he was trying to tell us something. And the crazy thing is that he would get so frustrated with us that he would literally throw his hands up in the air, shake his head, and walk away. So until we got to the point where we were saying, show us, then it started to become easier to learn what his needs were. Nobody watched TV with him because you know how the PlayStation, you could watch the movies and you can rewind it. Well, he would watch each movie to a certain point and rewind the whole thing back to the beginning. And this was because we realized he was learning it. And that's when we realized that there were certain things and ways for him to learn. And I get emotional because I can't stand to hear anyone say a child or anybody has with autism is stupid. There are people who hold degrees that have autism. And that's why this is so important to me because even though I'm not autistic, like Miss Lacey said, you have to understand them. You have to go into their world instead of trying to bring them into ours because it's not going to work. There's going to be frustration. People get upset. And having a child with autism isn't easy. Me and my sister raised Caden together because sometimes she would get frustrated. And, you know, we, Caden would sleep in my room. He had his own spot, he had his own movies. And I'm trying to put it to words, but because every time I talk about him, I get so emotional and my words kind of get stuck. But he's amazing. And I have a friend, her son is Eli. He has autism. He's amazing. And it upsets me when people write children off with autism like they don't know anything. You'll be surprised what's in those brains. Because we were. He put together this little it's a Ferris wheel and there's so many parts to it. And it took him only 2 days to do it. My sister showed it to me. And I was like, if that was one of us, it'd have took us a week to do this. So I honestly I like I forgot, was his name David? Is that his name? Who was just speaking? He disappeared on us. Okay, he said something about the TAs and the bus drivers. And
Yes,
yes,
that's
that's
David.
very yeah, okay. That's very important because they get frustrated. They don't understand that even when they're going to school, there's a whole lot going on around them. And they get frustrated when the children start acting out or having a meltdown. And it's very important, I think now that anybody that's learning how to be a bus driver in the school district, that should be part of their training. It should be mandatory because my sister had to cuss a bus driver out because when they pulled up, it was the assistant with the bus driver. She was yelling at Caden because he wouldn't sit still. And if I wasn't there, I think my sister would still be in jail about her son because like she was yelling at him. And it's like she's telling him like what he's doing is stemming because he's overstimulated. And you yelling at him is not gonna make it any better. And he had three teachers. Two of them Caden loved. And these were the two teachers that got him to speak. Like I said, the first time I heard Aunt Mary, I had him say it like three different times, and each time he smiled more and more because Caden, he's real sensitive. He understands things that are smaller than him. Um, I had a great nephew that I was when they were living out here in Vegas that I was keeping for the summer. And when he would hear Julian cry, I think Julian was about 4 months. He would come in the room and he would look at me and literally be like, "You don't hear that?" And like he has a niece, and when she was little, they're still close. When she was a baby, you couldn't touch her. You had to go through him. And that's just the nature of him though. He's very protective. He's very loving. And if you're his person, you're his person. So there's three of us. The first one is my nephew, Antoine, because when he was a baby, he would rock him crazy. I don't even know how that started. Then there's me, and then there's mom. And it's literally in that order. But that's the one thing that I've learned is that if they love you, they love you. There is no conditions. There is no buy me this toy or whatever. Literally, the first time he asked for a toy off the TV, he got it. I think that thing was like $200. He played with it two times and it sat in the corner. I think it was a truck or something. But we were so happy to hear him do it that he got whatever he asked for. And then we had to learn how to separate that, to not spoil him. You know what I mean? Like to not, but to make sure he got what he earned, his rewards. So he started learning the difference. And but I'm the only one as that since I haven't been around him in the last 4 years. I'm the only one who still hasn't gotten that armor yet. He can still do that face. He can still flash that smile because he knows he's my sidekick and I'll give him anything he wants. So, um, like yeah, but Miss Lacey said something about the high def thing. I never thought about it like that. About it being hearing things on a level that is people talk about background noise, but hearing things in high def, there is no background noise. Everything is loud. Everything is like overwhelming, especially when you have people talking to you from three different directions. So so now he does homeschool, and the only thing he has issue with right now is just reading. His math is amazing. He can put anything together with his hands, and we're still, like I said, we're convinced that he knows Korean. And everybody be like, "Oh, how you know?" Because he's the only one that can follow that. We're all sitting there watching him watch this Korean drama, and he's cracking up and he's going along. He's following it. We're all looking at each other like, "What?" We're reading the what is that? The subtitles. He's right along with it. So I say a lot to say is they're not stupid. Their brains are just wired different. And once you learn that, once you stop trying to drag them into your world and make them conform to what you think they should be doing, things get a lot easier. That's when everybody starts learning how to communicate with everybody. And that is my biggest thing. And that's the one thing most parents, um, especially if they're alone, and that's the other thing. I parents that are alone, like me and my sister, we had never even heard of autism until Katie. Now we have a different understanding. And it's like people who've never dealt with it on a personal level, not just people who are artistic, but who's had to be a caregiver, it can be frustrating because you like he was 6 years old before he would take medicine. Like we would have to trick him into taking Tylenol when he had a fever. But when he learned that we weren't trying to hurt him, yes, it's gross, and we would always have to get cherry because he still to this day will not drink anything unless it's red. So they're amazing. Just period. They're amazing. He's amazing. And I know this because I've watched him grow. And I don't know. I can't say anymore. I'm trying not to cuss. He's just amazing. And that's my Bubby. He is. So I'm done.
That was beautiful.
Thank you very much.
I was a special needs school bus driver for 6 years before, unfortunately, I had an accident where I slipped on ice and had to resign my position. And in the 6 years that I was the driver, my all time favorite student was a young man that was autistic, and this young man knew everything about cars. And but even before I got my route, I sometimes had to sit in the back as the TEA. And the first time I met him, I would just sit there and watch the other TEAs working with them, and they would sit in the front while he'd sit in the back, and all he wanted was attention. And I would sit there for about a day or two to
Mm.
learn his mannerisms and learn what he would like. And then I would go home and I would take a bunch of pictures of my German short hair Brandy because he loved dogs. And then I would take a picture of my F-350 Super Duty because he loved trucks. And I took a picture of my 1985 SL380 Mercedes Benz that was my grandfather's. And I would save these for when he would have his meltdown because a lot of my experience that I learned from different TEAs where they would get stressed out and start yelling. So what I would do instead of doing that, I would sit down. And let me tell you, I spent a lot of money on Little Debbie Hostess cupcakes because that's what this young man loved. And I said, okay, if you can give me a decent ride, you'll get a Little Debbie's on the way up to school. And then I'd walk off the bus with him and hand him one. Same thing on the way home. But in the meltdown moment, I say, hey, do you want to see a picture of Brandy, the pickup truck, or the Mercedes? All the time it was Brandy.
Mhm.
But I would learn the mannerisms. I would learn what he loved. And then when my TEA Nathan came, he did the same thing. But if he was really having a rough day, and this is what I was talking about with Lacey, Nathan and I had a way where Nathan didn't have to say anything to me. He would just do a head nod, and I would zero in and get straight to the school. And Nathan would be there with him. That's why I wanted to touch on that piece on the transportation. There needs to be more compassion and love behind that.
Well, and I was just gonna. Oh,
Oh,
was
no,
that
I know.
all three of us?
I'm done.
No, I was just gonna say, David, because like I think you highlighted that, and when you were talking and telling your story about your nephew and your family, like when you pay attention to people's interests and use their strengths to interact and engage with them, it's a whole different world. And people, like, we act like someone wanting attention is a bad thing. Like, we all want attention. Come on.
Right.
But when you focus on the strengths and those interests, like this is what I teach and train on too, is like use those to connect. You're connecting, you're making a human connection. That's all we're doing here. So I love that you said that. I think that's such a great point.
Thank you, Lacey. So
I go along that for me, it is the world is so messed up right now. And the last thing we want is to worry about our children that can't communicate the way that most people can.
Mhm.
And I believe that training and retraining should focus on just that,
Mhm.
on learning how to. I mean, you can't, if you have four students that are autistic, it may take a little bit of time, but they're on your route every day, twice a day. And if you pay attention, you'll learn just that. You'll learn what calms them down. And sometimes it's just sitting next to them quietly. You don't have to say nothing. Just sitting next quietly, just so they know that there's someone there. And that's my biggest thing is, you know, our children have to go out into the world. We can't be with them all the time, but we need to know that they're safe. Because his ride home, until he walked through the door, if he was 10 minutes late from the bus ride, I was a mess. My sister would be like, calm down. He's coming. I had a nightmare, and then I'm gonna stop talking. I had a nightmare um that I lost him, and in the craziest way, that he got eaten by a lion. And it was so crazy, but it was so real. I woke up in tears, and my sister was like, "Look, he's right there." So yeah, like that's the biggest thing for me is keeping our kids safe, at least on the bus to start.
Thank you
You
for
know,
sharing that. What do you got for us, fearless leader?
Well, I wanted to. Lacey was having a lot of movement and reactions to what Nurjahan was saying, so I wanted to ask her if she had anything she wanted to say other than what she said, because just I wanted to hear her response to what was said. If you had anything, if you don't, that's fine. You can unmute Lacey.
I'm so
Um,
sorry. Can you repeat the question? Or the
You were moving around a lot and agreeing with what was said by Nurjan. So I just wanted to get your response or what you were thinking. If you don't have anything to say, that's fine. I'm just wanted to get your response or what you agreed with, didn't agree with.
Oh, I always have something to say. I 100% agree because no, here's my passion. I love I've been doing training and consultation and teaching like facilitation for quite a few years now. Training for many, many years. And this is what I train on. I train like case managers, I train direct support professionals on like the concept of strength-based approaches and interest-based approaches and connecting with people and humanizing the people that you're working with and just hearing what you're saying and I was just really connecting with that because it's so important. Again, there's a million ways I could go with this, but systemically there's a lot of issues too. And it's not always, I mean, yes, the people that are doing the work, they need that training, but we also need to create a system where that training is available and consistent, and we're setting up systems that are supportive of people because accommodations benefit everybody. Like they just do. And it makes everybody's life better. So I'm right there with you.
yeah, it's just like he taught us. He taught us. We didn't teach him. He taught us. And one of the things he taught us was just that compassion, learning that not everybody fits in the same box. Not everybody learns the same way. And when you figure that out, excuse my language, shit gets easier. It just does. And like he's just amazing. And one day I'll get a video of him and send it to you. Especially now because he knows how to use the air fryer. He knows how to make his chicken nuggets. He knows how to make his pizza. And I think there's one more thing. Oh, he calls noodles spaghetti. So like he's
Mm.
amazing.
Well, he's making
So
my all-time favorite food snack, and that's chicken nuggets.
yes,
So
my sister goes through so many bags. She goes through at least 2 bags a month with that. but and it's crazy because one of the things that we were looking at is that when it comes to food, most autistic children have almost the exact same menu. And it's like, wow. And this is the other thing that I'm going to go. So I noticed that, like, there's Caden, and then he has a younger brother, Ethan, that's 3 years younger than him. Now, Ethan's not autistic, okay? I think he does have ADHD, but he's not autistic. And everybody I've met has a child that's autistic, they have a younger child that's same sex. And it's like God, universe, or whatever made made sure they had a companion or somebody that loved them. And I had a friend whose daughter was autistic, and like 3 years later, she had another daughter that wasn't, and they were like together all the time. So that's just my own observation. I could be wrong, but I'm done.
Okay, next up is our closer, who I've known for over 40 years. And I've just glad that I still am in contact with her and know her, and I'm glad that she's where she's at and is doing it as well as she is. So, without further ado, this is Cheryl Lizzo. You can unmute too.
Hi,
You're good.
everybody.
Hello.
Sorry I hopped on so late. Things were, I was doing stuff in the house and lost track of time, and then I had trouble getting on. But okay. Um, as far as our topic for the day, I do have some experience. I have been in special ed for over 25 years. I have worked with my fair share of autistic children. I have some in my current class, and now that I'm married, my sister-in-law is autistic. And there are lots of joys in working with them and being around them and seeing their strides and everything. And of course, there's hardships, when they get upset or, if they're not listening, but you just have to find the right way to communicate with them to get them to communicate what they need and do it the right way. Um, like I see it with my own sister-in-law. Yes, I do get frustrated sometimes, but I try not to. And I have gotten her to a point where she does most of the stuff herself, whereas she wasn't when I first met her. And my students, you have to learn if they're upset. Do they need a walk? Do they need just to talk to you? Do they need a toy just to calm down for a few minutes? You have to try to read their signals. It's not always easy, but it's important so that they know that they're safe and they know that they are accepted for who they are and that it's okay. And I get a great amount of joy from seeing them grow and become who they are. Like I have, in my class, I have 3 kids moving up to the middle school this year. And there's an incredible amount of pride in that. And one of them created the picture that is on the moving up t-shirt, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to buy, which makes me sad because whenever my student makes the t-shirt, I always like to have it so that I can show it off with pride. But unfortunately I couldn't do it this year. But um it just makes me so proud to see how far they've come and to know that they have a bright future ahead of them, and to know that I was a small part of that. Um, Trying to think of what else I can say.
What's
Have any questions?
Cheryl? I just have a
Yeah,
quick question. What's
of course.
what's one of your fondest memories? Being a special ed teacher and working with the students.
Honestly, it's you would think that, just, like when um they move up into the middle school or whatever. But for me, it's the small strides that they make. Like say a student is practically nonverbal and then a month later they're talking, or they don't know their alphabet and then a month later they know A through D. It's the small things that they learn and they as they grow that are so fascinating and remarkable, because people who are not handicapped or who are not in special ed don't understand that. Like I'll talk to someone who's not in special ed and I'll say, well, so and so learned C today and it took 4 months. And they're like, so? I'm like, but you don't understand. It was a struggle for them
Yeah.
and they accomplished it. It really, being in this field really helps you to appreciate the little things in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I think people who don't go through those struggles underestimate the what it takes.
Right. Exactly. I had a student years ago who, like me, wears leg braces, didn't want to wear them. So I one day made a deal with him. I said, how about you bring your braces in tomorrow morning? I was working full time at the time, and I'll have mine off when you come in, and we'll put our braces on together. And we did. And from that day forward, he wore his braces every single day.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this to you, Cheryl.
Uh-huh.
From every auntie and every mother, nothing you do is a small part.
Thank you.
You are the first person that they talk to, that they
Mhm.
learn from. That is not at all small at all. Don't ever say that again.
Thank you.
That is the largest. You're teaching them to communicate with the outside world. My
Yes.
nephew, that ABC thing,
Mhm.
no, we he loved his teachers. The first two, he loved them. Don't ever
Yeah.
think that what you do is small, because it's not.
Oh
And
yeah, I get a
I'm not
great
gonna.
amount of joy seeing my kids every single day.
Yeah, yeah, the teachers that do this, I mean, you guys are amazing. I mean, it's okay. I'm done because I'm gonna get emotional. And but yeah, you're absolutely amazing, and I just want to say
Thank you.
thank you for doing it. So
Thank you.
okay, you're
And
welcome.
Cheryl, I'm going to piggyback off of that because
Mhm.
that's the one thing I miss. I've been out of the driving the school bus for
Mhm.
now 4 years, and the only piece of that profession that I miss, I do not miss the
Mhm.
cold weather, walking outside,
Right.
inspecting the engine, checking the
Mhm.
wheelchair lift, crawling underneath the
Mhm.
bus, checking the chassis and the transmission or any of
Mhm.
that, warming up the bus or anything like that. I never made friends with any of the other drivers, any of the TEAs, because I did not want to get involved in any of the politics or any of the drama.
Right.
I always kept my diesel running in my truck because
Mhm.
instead of being in the terminal, I went to my truck and sat in there because I had a seat warmer and my
Right.
diesel was warmer than the terminal. The only
Yeah.
friend I had at that time at that terminal was my TEA Nathan Franks. What
Right.
I miss are the
Mhm.
connections with the students
Yes.
because the bus driver and the TEA were the first people they met in the morning,
Yep.
and then we handed them off to you guys. We were the ones taking them across the highways here in Colorado with the icy roads and the snowy conditions and
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
like that.
definitely not an easy job. I highly respect that job too.
Yeah, as I do you. We only had, like that student I talked about, we maybe had him for 45, 50 minutes in the morning. And then we handed him off to you guys. And
Yep.
that's mad respect right there. And
My husband is a bus driver.
there you go. So you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mad respect on that. Nothing
Thank you.
is ever too small. Take the
Right.
wins. As Hummel and I know through our other fearless leader, the squirrel hunter from West Virginia, is celebrate any wins that you have, no matter how big
Absolutely.
or small that they are. And that's why I
Absolutely.
wanted to just ask that question, is because, you know, there's more to it with what I did when I was in that profession, and I miss it. With that being said, you're still there. And
Right.
every imprint, every moment that you're with your kids, you're making a difference.
People say that it's not important what you do as long as you have a job and you're making money. And there's some truth to that. Yes, you know, that's part of being an adult. You need a job to make money. But if you're blessed enough to be in a job that you love, it makes it so much more easy to get up and go to work every day and do your best and want to be there. So I personally think that enjoying your job and doing something that you love is important, because then you can truly put your best foot forward, not because you have to, but because you want to.
I think that's very underrated.
I agree.
Yes.
It really is. Like, I mean, like, I think about what the teachers deal with. Like, you
Oh yeah.
have to, you might have 15 to 20 students. I don't know how many you have in your class, but
I'm
you
special
have,
ed, so I only have 6 kids in my class, and I'm the teacher's aide. But I have a high amount of respect for the teachers. I don't think I could do what they do, having to deal with all of the testing and the parent meetings and everything else that they deal with.
you know,
I
people
you know,
think people think the teacher's aide doesn't do anything, but that's like the nurses at the hospital. We know the
right.
nurses do most of the work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so teachers' aides are like in that category. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And
They do
usually,
the paperwork, we do the crunch work.
exactly, it's usually the teacher's aide that they connect with first,
Yeah. Yep.
because they get that attention. So,
Mhm.
you guys are like Michael just said, you guys are so underpaid and underrated, and
Thank you.
you guys you guys deserve hazard pay. I'm just saying. So yeah.
It makes
So
me
thank you
happy
for
when my
sharing.
students, well, when I walk in, they'll be like, Miss Cheryl, if they see me come in the building, but they know it's not time for me to come into class yet, they'll be like, Miss Cheryl, you coming into class? What time are you coming into class?
Hmm.
And, before I leave, they'll be like, is it time? You're leaving already? When's your bus coming? Or they'll see my boss and they'll be like, Miss Cheryl, your bus is here. It just brings so much joy that they, connect
Isn't it
that way with me.
amazing that isn't it
Yeah.
amazing that you get that feeling
Yeah.
unconditionally though? There's nothing
Absolutely.
behind it. There's no motivation.
Yep.
You love them and they know it. And that
Yep.
is always my point. So
What do
Absolutely.
you got for us, Lacey?
Yeah, no, I love this conversation. And I think Cheryl too, you said something about, I just kind of wanted to come back to this because it
Mhm.
just kept running through my head as you were talking about how you explained to someone like they learned the letter C today or D or,
Yep.
and they're like, so, and I just think about like, what I know I have pipe dreams of, let's just all live in peace together, but like that's genuinely where my heart lies because
Mhm.
how much would your world change if for a moment that person stopped and said, tell me more about that? Tell me
Right.
why that's so important. You know what
Right.
I
And
mean? Because
there's still so many ways that we could improve. I mean, like, I feel like with special ed now, like we're getting away from special ed in a lot of ways. Like, we don't talk about what the kids' handicaps are. How can we properly serve them if we don't know truly about them? We
Mhm.
don't like in some classes, I know that there are deaf students. The teachers are not meant to, they're not told that they need to learn ASL. It's not given as part of our training. It should be.
Yeah.
We have blind students. Why aren't we taught Braille to help them? There's so many more things that we could do to make our way of teaching them even better. And it's just not done. And it makes me sad because what are we doing? We're not
Mm.
giving our
Yeah.
best. We're,
Yeah.
we're giving them mediocre. We're not giving them what we truly could be giving them.
Yeah.
And
Not
that's where
giving
you
them what
just
they
hit the
deserve.
nail. And that's where you just hit the nail on the head. Let's take it
Mhm.
from mediocre and take it to what it can be at the summit. And Michael, I'm sorry, I'm bringing my terminology in here. Okay. You got to take it from base camp to the ridge line and all the way up to the top of the summit. Okay.
Mhm.
To bring the best impact in here. And that's where we can pull this all together here. This is what Michael has built here. With all of the stories of diversities that I have
Mhm.
been a part of. And there have been, I've lost count because unfortunately I had to take a 7-week reprieve with getting my shoulder repaired.
Right.
And
It's
I am,
not list a year.
yeah, I'm so excited to be back live with everybody.
Yes, we're glad you're back.
Thank you so much. It means the world to me. But this is what Michael has built here. You're hearing stories,
Mhm.
you're hearing raw, powerful stories about teachers being and not student aides, but assistants being in
Mhm.
there with the children that need to take it from mediocre and take it up a level. I
Right.
was diagnosed that I needed to be in special education because I had ADD, but I excelled in special education and I
Mhm.
was
That's
able to be
awesome.
put into regular classes. There's misdiagnosis there. So
Mhm.
why is there being mediocre? Let's take it to the next step. Let's get the kids
Right.
what they need. And so that's the importance of what
Right.
Michael Hummel has built here.
And
Absolutely.
And
I started out in special ed in preschool, and then my mom mainstreamed me, and it was the best thing she did for me because I'm on the cusp. I have learning disabilities, but I'm also beyond it. You know, like I can do the things that regular ed can do, but I struggle. But I'd rather struggle and learn than feel dumb because I already know the stuff
Mm.
and be exposed to um, behaviors and things. Because in my district, that's what it was. It was either regular ed and good behavior or special ed and there were behaviors. So, you
I,
know, I'm blessed to have been in regular ed. Yes, I struggled. I struggled hard, but I learned and I'm better for it.
Mm.
and
Very
I
good.
just have one thing. Just one thing, and I don't know if anybody
Hmm.
would agree with me on this, and I think you would. I I I think that special ed label
Hmm.
should be removed. I
I agree.
can't stand that.
I agree.
Because my nephew asked like, why is he in special ed? This is another nephew, and his
Hmm.
stepfather told him because you're special. And
Hmm.
after that, he was okay. Like
Hmm.
he really did better. But I can't stand that. It irritates me
Mm.
because
I
the minute
personally don't
somebody
like the
hears
word. I agree with you there, but I also personally don't like the word disability because I feel it has a very negative connotation.
exactly,
Unable. I personally like either physically handicapped or physically challenged preferred or learning challenged because you have challenges. You're not disabled. You're not unable. You have lots of abilities.
And like
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
have a learning disability, but it's only with like math and angles and numbers and things.
Mhm.
So
If
that
that's a
as
disability, I should be diagnosed. You're not the only one with the math issues.
Yeah, math is
that
my
follows me
nemesis.
around a lot.
Math is my nemesis.
Yeah.
Beyond addition and subtraction, the basics.
Oh yeah, when I was
Yeah.
in high school and I got the algebra, I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yep.
Yes, yes. And they
Well,
tell you, oh, you're gonna use it, and it's like, where?
Nope.
I
so true.
haven't used it in almost 30 years.
There you
Right.
go.
I use
So
Well,
addition,
everybody.
subtraction, multiplication, division, and money, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, everybody, I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this month's Stories of Diversity. I am back, and my business partner here at New Beginnings, if I'm not available, is going to be helping out Michael um, with the co-hosting side of things, because there may be some other work I need to get done on another shoulder, but I'm going to be trying to postpone that. But with that being said, I am officially back as Michael's partner in crime because we are the dynamic duo when it comes to that side
hey,
of things. I do want to share with everybody here in the Zoom room and on Facebook land and also on the YouTube channel that Michael Martin Hummel, who has an even better smile than Matthew McConaughey. I don't know why everybody says that Matthew McConaughey has the best smile in Hollywood. Michael Hummel puts that guy to shame. Let me tell you, right? And typically Julie always chimes in and says she would agree with that, but I'm sure she's busy today. But I wanted to announce that Michael Hummel is our Mountain Summit sponsor with the Mountain Summit Virtual, which is coming up on June 10th and 11th, which is a week and a half away. And what that is a part of my organization with New Beginnings
Hmm.
Motivation. And
Cool.
Michael, guess what?
But
You're doing it again, bro. And I'm sure you're not going to give me a hard time for this, are you?
no.
Cheryl, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what is your name?
no, Jahan.
LaJohn?
Just call me Nor. Just call me Nor.
Okay.
It's easier.
Michael gave me the okay to do this. He gets 5 VIP tickets to this
Hmm.
summit, being our main sponsor. And he gave me the okay to give these last 2 VIP tickets to you guys for our summit coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
And Lacey, you got the ticket as well since you and I got to catch up. So after this call is done, I'm going to send Michael the VIP ticket. It's an all-day event for the 2 days,
Hmm.
and it starts at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and goes until 6 p.m. Mountain
Oh
Standard Time
wow.
on June 10th and 11th. We have over 40 plus speakers coming to this, and it's carrying the fire forward. And the fire that I saw in today's Stories of Diversity and being displayed by you 3 lovely ladies. Michael and I were texting back and forth, and he gave me the okay to give you guys these 2 tickets.
That's
Plus,
incredible. Thank you.
you're thank Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Michael's the man. So, and also not only that, he's going to be speaking. So,
Awesome.
and I'm not giving you guys the schedule. So you're gonna
I know
So
what I'm
it's
thinking.
okay.
do
So
not give it
show up.
away, Mr. Hummel. You might give it to Cheryl since you've known her for over 40 years.
Yes.
So, but everybody, ladies and gentlemen, this has been really ow. I shouldn't have clapped like that. I always sometimes forget, but that's okay. But it's been so good being back on a live with family that I've only known for 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, who knows? But anybody that
I'm
knows my brother from another mother, it becomes instant family to me. So you want to hear more about Michael's story? Join us in a week and a half at the Mountain Summit Virtual. Thank you all
Awesome.
for tuning in with us on YouTube, on Facebook. Everybody here in Zoom land, stick with me when we turn off the live. Thank you all for joining us for this month's Stories of Diversity. We'll more than likely be back next month. Michael has to tell me what we're doing, and we'll rock it like it's
Looking forward.
1999.